Good day, or good evening, or good morning, and whenever you're watching this video, I wish you are in great spirits. My name is Sanei. I'm an author, speaker, and lecturer. I am fascinated by what it takes to prepare for the future. Premier Alan Winde has asked me to make a quick video describing this future and our ability to choose how we prepare for it. I'm highly honored to be doing this, and unfortunately I can't be with you in real life as I'm going to be on holiday, and I couldn't cancel that because it was already paid for. But either way, I am so excited to be doing this video for you, and so join me as I share with you the research that I've been doing over the last year for my new book, FORESight, which is really about what I'm seeing around the world when it comes to us preparing for the future. And when I say us, I mean us in our human capacity, not just in a corporation or in a governmental institution. This future requires us to really shift our perspective on the future, because our perspective about the future determines how we prepare for it. It is now, I call it the end of the beginning. And by that I mean that the internet has been with us for 20 years or so, and we are now ending chapter 1. And the first 20 years of the internet were very much about connectivity and connecting humanity. We've done pretty well with about 4 billion people connected. And we've got the next 4 billion people going to be connected over the next 6 or 7 or 8 years. And we're moving towards a world with free, fast Wi-Fi. And we're seeing many organizations like SpaceX and Viacom and many others that are launching satellites, balloons, and drones to give everybody free, fast Wi-Fi, which is really exciting. The first 20 years of the internet were very much dominated by two types of businesses, social and search. You were either on Google or Facebook, Google on Instagram, and this really what has dominated the internet as we understand it today. But what we're going to start seeing is the next chapter of the internet is going to be dominated by 4 new pillars. And the 4 new pillars will shift the way we interact with the internet, how personalized our lives will become, and how interactive the digital and the real world will become. The real disruption will really begin 2020 onwards. And what we've seen up to now has really been small innovations and iterations of things that we've been used to, making them more efficient. But now we're going to start seeing real disruption. And I'll get into the difference between innovation and disruption just a little bit later. The 4 new pillars that drive this internet forward are going to be machine learning or artificial intelligence, data or information technology, blockchain, and biotechnology. And let me give you quick descriptions of each one of these. Data being the new oil, the amount of information we are allowed or able to collect on ourselves and everything around us is growing exponentially. We already, most of us have wearables on our arms that are measuring our steps and our calories and those sort of things, but we're about to see the advent of nearables, seeables, smellables, hearables, edibles, and in fact we're going to see billions and billions of new sensors the size of a grain of sand that are going to be able to pick up any sort of information that we require from them. Add to this the advent of Internet Protocol 6, giving us the opportunity to connect 78 octillion devices to the internet. That's 78 billion things can now talk to each other to make our lives more seamless. And add to this the advent of 5G, which gives us connectivity up to 100 times faster to what we're used to right now, which I don't think anybody quite understands as yet. If you had to download a movie using 3G, it would take you about 26 hours. If you had to download a movie using 4G, it would take you about 6 minutes. If you had to download a movie using 5G, it would take you 3 seconds. So you understand that the advent of our connectivity is increasing exponentially. Now, all this information that's coming at us makes us all very confused, and we don't know actually what to do with all the data. And this is where machine learning comes in, or artificial intelligence. This ability to learn and relearn and relearn and relearn at hyper speeds is what machine learning is going to do, giving us an opportunity to have a incredibly seamless and personalized lives that give us all an opportunity to live a fluid life based on all this data that's been collected and contextualized. Now, many people are scared of this machine learning and artificial intelligence, and I think it's a good thing to be scared of it. And the people that are scared of it are the ones that are utilizing linear ways of thinking. the left brain way of thinking, which the Industrial Revolution forced us to do, the education system forced us to do. These people will be disrupted because machine learning and artificial intelligence can learn things much quicker than human beings, make almost zero mistakes. And so everything that has got to do with our left brain, which is about languages and processes, these things will be disrupted. And this is what gets people to be scared, but I have a solution, so just bear with me. Add to this advent of biotech or biology technology, where we've now come to the point where we can digitize the very essence and DNA and cellular structure and molecular structure of human beings or food. We can now redesign the way we are built. We can redesign how food is built. And biotech is going to move us away from medical technology, which is about fixing people, to biotechnology, which creates humans that never need fixing. This changes the games of what hospitals are about and how we go about actually fixing humans and how we never need to actually go back to medtech. And this is going to be over the next 5 to 10 years. We're already starting to see designer babies being born in parts of China and Russia, where you can choose your own color of eyes or height or whatever the case may be, and for your baby to be born exactly like you designed it. Now, this might sound strange, but if you had to think about this idea that bionic eyes will be available to us or bionic hearing will be available to us pretty soon, you might think it's on the fringe. But imagine your child, God forbid, has an accident and loses his or her sight. What would you do? You would obviously utilize bionic eyes to want to give your child sight. I mean, that makes obvious sense. And then when you're sitting in a park with your child and your child can see way further than you and hear way further than you, you'll start thinking to yourself what your next Christmas gift will be to yourself. It'll be a set of bionic eyes, because this will become part and parcel of our lives. We can also redesign food. You could have a peach that tastes like a watermelon with 125 grams of protein in it. You can pretty much redesign life. Now, the big question now comes is trust. What's going to happen when the Russians hack into us, or the Chinese hack into us, or whoever the enemy is of that time? And this is where blockchain comes in. And blockchain is a very difficult thing to describe, because if you had to think about trying to understand the internet just 25 years ago, you would have no clue of what the internet is or was or what it could do, because there was no frame of reference. There was no benchmark to the internet. And in fact, if you think about the very first time you saw an @ sign, the @ for your email address, or you wouldn't know what it was. Nobody knew what an @ sign was. And then all of a sudden now it's part and parcel of our language. Blockchain is on the fringes of technology, and only really smart tech boffins understand it. But if I just give you a couple examples of blockchain. Have you ever worked on a Word document between you and your colleagues, and that Word document gets sent through maybe 4 or 5 different emails, and everybody's working on that Word document, and what you start having is a Word document that's saved as final. And then you have another one at final, then final version 2, final version 5. Eventually you don't even know which version is which version. And so what we start to see is that blockchain is kind of like that. There's so many different contracts and negotiations going on all over the place. Nobody actually knows where they are, because there's so many different middlemen in the way. But if you just take this Word document and you bring Google Docs to the situation, and what Google Docs has done has totally changed the game, because Google Docs has brought one document up. We can all work on the same document, change it in live time, save it in live time, and we can all see it. It's totally transparent, it's totally in the public eye, and once it's done, it can never be undone. This is what blockchain is about. It's this ability for us to do contracts and to do sales between each other, or us and machines to machines, where we never have to have another middleman in there, like the Google Docs example. Let me give you one more example. If you remember when the cell phone came out, and the cell phone itself was really not great initially, you know, the battery power was rubbish, the memory was rubbish, the buttons were useless, the screen was small, but the cell phone had 3 characteristics that really set it apart that nobody really took notice of because it was so early. The cell phone was mobile, it had the potential for a camera, and it had GPS coordinates in it. That changed the way we interact with technology, because now all of a sudden we don't have a PC on our desks anymore. We have a remote control for life, which is our cell phone. And those 3 characteristics really set it apart, and now it's become very much part and parcel of our lives. An extension of our brains and our arms is a cell phone. The blockchain has 3 characteristics. It's immutable, which once it's done, it's never able to be undone. It's in the public when it's totally open for everybody to see, and it's 100% transparent. So we are able to do micro contracts and mega contracts, all utilizing blockchain without having been worried whether it's been done or not, or anybody's going to be schmockling you or not. I'll give you an example of a trip I did to San Francisco earlier this year, and we met the car of the future. And the car of the future utilized blockchain, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and facial recognition. And so when the car arrived to pick me up, it said, "Hello, John." Hi. I said, "Hello, car." I got into the car, and the car said, "So where are you going today?" I said, "The airport." The car said, "No problem. Please give me $22.50. I transferred $22.50 into the car's account, utilizing blockchain because it's a mini contract, utilizing dollars, machine learning, artificial intelligence, etc., etc. And then the car starts moving towards the airport. Now, fascinating to be in a car with no driver. It takes a little bit of getting used to. But anyway, you get used to it, and then you start to realize that you're actually running a bit late for your flight. And so I tell the car, "Listen, I think I'm running late for my flight. Could you speed up?" And the car says, "No problem, I will speed up, but I need another $7.50 from you." And I thought it was a bit strange, but anyway, I gave the car another $7.50 through voice recognition from my bank account. And then the car starts giving $1 to each car on the road for that car to get out the way for us to get to the airport sooner. This is blockchain. Machines speaking to machines, humans speaking to machines, all done with blockchain, making sure that every transaction is immutable, transparent, and in the public eye. Now, let's combine these four technologies. Artificial intelligence, which is going to be changing the game with everything that's linear thinking. Add to this data points or information technology where we're able to gather so much information from so many different things that we never thought about before. Add to this biotech where we're redesigning human life in its form that we understand it. And ultimately blockchain, which changes the way we deal and interact with each other or with machines. Now, understand that the paradigm that we are moving towards is not even in the same chapter of the same book of the world that we come from. It is a new book. It is a brand new game that we're having to prepare for. And it's a very daunting task to try and prepare for this world utilizing old ways of thinking. You see, we are not in a technological revolution. We are in a society revolution. And this idea that society is shifting is what we need to get to grips with. The very essence of value, just like it did from the agricultural times to the industrial times, we are now moving from the industrial times to the quantum times. The way we learnt is not valid in the quantum times. Just like what you learnt in the agricultural times wasn't valid in the industrial times, we have to understand that the way we prepare for the future has to change. It cannot be reliant on the way we studied at university and school and went about doing things in a linear fashion, which is what the Industrial Revolution required from us. The Industrial Revolution was about processes, was about language, was about systems and frameworks. Today, when we move into the quantum world, we start to see that the world becomes multifaceted, multidimensional. Our ability to shift and change become imperative in how we survive or thrive in the future. I often get a question after my talks, and the question is, how do we prepare our children for the future? And this really was the catalyst for me to research my book called FORESight, because I wanted to understand and share with people that it's not so much what you study. It's not what you get your kids to focus on. It's how you get your kids to behave. It's how you get yourself to behave when you come into contact with new information. You see, adaptability, flexibility, and optimism become incredibly important for us to be able to maneuver in a multi-shifting world that's coming. If we are still linear in our thinking, this multifaceted world will squash us, disrupt us, and totally get rid of us. So we have an option. We have an option to look at the world in hindsight, which is looking at our past, trying to recreate our past into tomorrow. And the question you need to ask yourself if you're in hindsight is, are you living a life based on a set of memories from your past? Or are you living a life based on the vision of your future? And most of us are in repetition of yesterday, hoping for a different result. And so we have to fix our perspective of not looking into the past and trying to recreate the past into the future, but actually redesigning the future totally. The second way we can look at the world is through plain sight. And these people who suffer from plain sight are the logical thinkers. They are the people that only believe what their five senses tell them. If I can feel it, taste it, touch it, smell it, and hear it, then I'll believe it. Otherwise, I don't believe anything that doesn't actually come into my reality using my five senses. These are the people that say, seeing is believing. I told you it is. Seeing is believing. But quantum science is starting to prove that totally wrong. Quantum science is now saying, believing is seeing. What we create through our perspective is what we see. We don't see the world as it is, we see the world as we are. I mean, think about it. Did you ever want to buy a new car and then all of a sudden you start seeing that new car everywhere? That was you creating that in your reality. What about that person you don't like that you keep bumping into at the Woolworths and at the spa and at the gym? That's you creating that. And so people that are stuck in plain sight don't realize that we have the opportunity to redesign our identity, tell a different story about who we are, and understand that is it power that motivates us or force? You see, force is young, it's bulldozer kind of energy, where power is much more elegant and deliberate and really gives us an opportunity to create long-term solutions. But I think the biggest problem we have today is people that are stuck in insight. And people that are stuck in insight are the people that have got incredible levels of academic studying. They've done all the degrees, they've watched all the talks, they've been to all the universities, they've read all the books. They are incredibly rich academically, and they're full of knowledge but have no wisdom. It's called the expert problem. The more expert you are in a topic, the less likely it is that you're able to bring any new information in if it doesn't fit into the same frameworks that you've studied. So now we have the world full of PhDs and MBAs and you name it, all these degrees out there. With all these degrees, when you look at what they need for the future, it's not these degrees. And so it's a very difficult place to let go of the ego construct that's created this identity based on studying and based on the career you've created, because this career, unfortunately, will not allow you to thrive in the future because it needs new ways of perspectives that sees this future that has got nothing to do with this past. And so what we need to develop is foresight. And foresight is actually a characteristic within us that needs to make us naturally adaptive and optimistic and fluid, because that's what the future requires. And what foresight is the development or the cultivation of wisdom within ourselves and to start making decisions through curiosity. Now, let me explain what that is. You see, wisdom, best described by Alan Watts, he says, the knowledgeable man has to learn something new every day, while the wise man has to unlearn something new every day. And think about that. It's in the unlearning of that we get prepared for the future. When we are holding memories that have hurt us, that are resentful, that we are creating our identities with, and we're pulling them around everywhere we go, we can't start afresh. It's impossible. We have to heal ourselves and heal our governmental institutions and our organizations about where we come from so we can look at the future with fresh eyes. Tony Robbins calls it moving from memories that are unconscious to memories that are conscious. In other words, do you look at your past and blame it, or do you thank it? Because if you can thank it, it energizes you. If you blame it, it de-energizes you. And then curiosity is something that as human beings we naturally have within us. But education has drummed it out of us. And what education did was, and still does, is, oh, you're curious about X, Y? Just do that as a hobby. But we're all going to go sit into this classroom and all do algebra together, which is ridiculous if you think about it, because what happens is we become robots, all learning the same thing, all going through a system of processes which the Industrial Revolution required. So we have to actually upgrade the way we perceive the future to become optimists. And the way you become an optimist is by making decisions what makes you most excited, what makes you most come alive. And when you are coming alive and when you're excited, you're constantly energized, you're constantly focused on what you can be creating rather than have legacy thinking. And you combine that with wisdom, which is healed memories, and now you have the ability to be a natural optimist, a natural flexible human being, which is what is required in the future. Now, this is a very short sort of summary of my book and my 60-minute keynote, which I would have delivered if I was in Cape Town for your meeting. But ultimately, what I'm trying to show people is that we need to redesign our organizational structures in order to prepare for the future. And the reason I say that is that the rules of the games that coming are very different to the rules of the games we're playing today. And so what I help organizations do is set up 3 teams. You see, you have to have a today team, a tomorrow team, and a day after team. And if you don't have these 3 different teams, what you have are people within an organization that are schizophrenic. Because most organizations are schizophrenic. Because what they say is be disruptive, be innovative, but make sure you still net profit and you're still running the business like you used to, which is exactly the opposite of what you require. What you require is somebody to make sure the business is running like it used to, or the governmental organization, and you need somebody else redesigning this new thing that's needed, because they're totally different. It's kind of like, imagine Serena Williams arrives at Wimbledon and they say, well, this year we're going to use 2 rackets. I mean, she's not prepared for 2 rackets, and this is what the future looks like with these 4 new pillars that are coming with the internet. So let's focus on the Today team. And the Today team are people that are focused in on the 1 to 2 year horizon. They are focused on innovation, modification, and doing things just a bit better than you did yesterday. Now, that's what the definition of innovation is doing what you did just a bit better. And Gillette is a great example of this. They went from 1 blade to 2 blade to 3 blade to 4 blade to 5 blade to 6 blade. I mean, what's next? 10 blades, 15 blades. You can understand that if you just get stuck in the innovation loop, you're just doing what you did yesterday just a bit better, which is a very dangerous place to be. But we understand that we need to keep the lights on, we need to pay salaries, and so in order to do that, innovation is necessary, and that's why the Today team needs to be there. Then we have the Tomorrow team, which is about the disruptors. And if you understand what disruption means, it's making your current business model obsolete to create a new business model. Now, that's a totally different team, because the 2 to 5 year horizon, or the Tomorrow team, needs to be led by tech specialists. You see, every sector, whether it's government or organizational, big business or small business, if you're not tech-led first, the filter of which you're starting to see the future is not right. So you've got to understand that blockchain specialists, artificial intelligence specialists, biotech specialists, data scientists, these people need to become part and parcel of this team, so that the perspective that they're creating the new solutions for are based first and foremost by the tech filter and then the sector filter. And so we have to be creating a brand new task force that is actually focused on creating the Tomorrow team. And then you get the Day After team. And the Day After team, I call them evolutionaries. These are the people that just see the world differently. They measure success differently. They're not based on power or profit. They're very much based on impact. And Elon Musk is doing this right now. He's a total Day After team person. He's an absolute evolutionary. I don't know if you just saw recently what he did on the 22nd of April. He came out and he announced that Tesla was going to be taking on Uber and Lyft as their new competition. And people said to him, how are you going to get so many taxis on the road to compete against Uber and Lyft? He says, I've already got 1 million robo-taxis on the road. And they're like, what are you talking about? How do you have 1 million robo-taxis? He says, everybody that's bought a Tesla to date is now got an option to put their car into the pool of taxis and make over $30,000 a year if they just put their taxi their Tesla into the taxi pool, and while they're at work or while they're sleeping, their car can make money for them, which on its own is genius. Because think about it, he has been planning this for the last 10 years or 5 years. We have no clue. We're just going to buy a Tesla, but now we realize that it actually can make money itself. But that's not where the genius ends, because Tesla and Uber internationally or America, they charge between $2 and $3 a mile. Tesla is going to be charging 18 cents a mile. I mean, just look at that. He's an absolute evolutionary. Because if he was an innovator or a capitalist at the core, he would come in at $1.50 a mile. He's coming in at 18 cents a mile, which totally decimates the Uber and Lyft business model. And so you understand that we need to have 3 teams that are able to focus on the today issues. We need a totally different team focusing on the tomorrow issues, and we need a totally different team focused on the day after issues, so that everybody can focus in on what they need to, rather than being schizophrenic, trying to create solutions in all 3 of these sectors. In fact, you need totally different people in them. It's not even the same person is not able to do it, because somebody who's blockchain focused can't come into the Today team, because it's not about blockchain, it's about what's going on yesterday with a linear way of living. So if we understand, in summary, in order for us to prepare for the future, first and foremost, we need to realize it's an internal job. We can't be still doing what we did yesterday and what we studied yesterday and trying to force that in to what tomorrow looks like. The second thing we need to realize is that if we don't expose ourselves to the future often, and if we don't hire new people with new sets of skills and give them opportunities and positions to make decisions at a leadership level when they've got tech as a filter for their first way of making decisions, we are not able to make decisions that will get us ready for tomorrow. And I find this around the world where I go and speak to a board, and the board has got old people on it. And they're trying to create solutions for young people, and they have no idea about blockchain or artificial intelligence or any of these things. So we have to hire new people and get them to sit around the board so that we can get them to make decisions for us. And we need to allow dreamers and creative thinkers to think about what's coming next. I'm a passionate Cape Townian. I would do anything to help this region, and if you need me anymore, please let me know so I can come in and guide you more, just share some of the thinking. But it's an internal job, and it's an ability to hire new people that are going to give us this opportunity to be adaptive and thrive in a future that is going to be an incredibly abundant place. And I'm so optimistic about what's coming, and I'm such a big fan of Premier Alan Winde, and I hope you all are too. And I wish you all good luck, and I look forward to seeing you all. Ciao.